And I'm just going to pop on here real quick to just go through some data that we were talking about today in our staff, or not our staff meeting, our weekly check in with our agents and just as a firm. And so I figured I might as well share it with you as well. So hopefully you're listening and you get something out of this. So if you are watching right now, hit the subscribe button on the YouTube channel if you're watching on there. If you're listening on Spotify or a podcast, just hit us up there as well. If you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts, you may not be able to see all the graphs that I'm talking about. So you might want to consider going over to Spotify if you want to see the video version, or go to YouTube and check that out as well. All right, let's get right into it because I'm not going to, waste too much time on this one. I want to bring you to this screen here real quick. So the first thing, we just want to talk about like where are the opportunities in this market. We talked about that also on like 2 podcasts ago, like with I believe Jordan. We were talking with the buyer side, and then I had one with seller. I can't remember who it was with. I'm recording lots of podcasts, but we did cover both of these things. But and it's going to be fairly similar, but I'm going to walk through this anyway. But where are the opportunities? So let's talk about that right now. So opportunities. Let's take a look. I'm going to blow this up so maybe you can see it better. So Pierce County transactions. So what pattern do you see after May? So this one thing we were talking about, especially right now, we're in June. So just to give some context, we're in June, which is typically like our our major time to do things, and sellers are selling houses, and hopefully the days are longer, everyone's out looking at houses. It's just a lot of activity, and this is probably going to be when you see peak activity. So this shows all the homes for sale in Pierce County, $450,000 and up. For this particular one, I believe I did that for this one, or maybe either way. This is Pierce County, and then the light green is for sale, dark green is sold, and then the red is pended. So we're looking at month 5, so month of May, which is the last month recorded all the way on the right end for 2025 for this particular graph. But what I'm looking at is different patterns that emerge after May that have been the last 2 years or 3 years. And even you can look back to 2018, 19, 17, in that range, actually might be even a better way of looking at this, because that was more of a AKA normal market. And since COVID, we really haven't had like, it's been whiplash. We're trying to basically get out of that 2% rate land that we were in for a while, which caused a crazy historic run. So this is just, so take this with a grain of that context. So in 2022, that was the last time we had more sold than pending. So I'm sorry, more sold than for sale in that month. And then what happened right after that is we went right to having more inventory and less sales. So also what happened around that time was the rates were being hiked up exponentially. So, went from a 3 to a 7% rate. I believe that was in 22. So, in that year, we had a really stark contrast to what we've been used to, which was lower rates. And then, like within 6 months, I believe it went from 3 to 7 or something like that. I'd have to go back. Don't quote me on that. I'm just talking right now. This is live. So I'm just looking at a graph, though. But you can see here that the actives way outpaced the solds right after that month. So rates were hiked. They continued to be. And then you can go back and go to, let's see, May of 2023. We then had, it was slightly more for sale than sold on that one. And then right after that, you see, boom, like the actives just, outpaced the solds again. Let's go to 524. So this one started with, the actives way outpacing the solds in that month. And then what ensued after that was, the same, more of the same. Okay, so now put your pattern hat on and put on. And so what pattern do you see after May? Well, right now, look at this May. And I don't have the data. It's on the table right below this, but um, you can see we are way outpacing for sales versus, or actives versus sold. So I look at this and I'm just sitting here going, okay, well, if I'm a seller, I have to be super competitive with my price right now. And that's just kind of where we're at. That's the market that we can't do anything about that as agents and whatnot, but we can help advise you, which is why I'm doing this. So this is another one that's looking at. This is a table that's right underneath that graph that shows the for sale. And I'm looking at May 24 and 25. So I'm looking at apples to apples. I like to look at month to month, or a month, like 2024 May versus 2025 May, and where were we at? So you can see here that we have 33.3% more inventory for sale than May of 2024. So that's why when you go back and look at that graph, like you can see that there's a 24% bump on that. So if I were to go back to here, you can see, that's a 25% increase. If you were to look at that bar and that bar, boom, that's 25% increase. And so that's what that illustrates right here. Or I'm sorry, 33.3% increase, more than that. Sold. So looking at the solds, you can see it's down negative 2.5% in May 25. And the reasoning for that is because everything that went under contract that sold in that month went under contract in April. And as you know, Liberation Day was in April. So in our market, things went as with every market, the tariffs and just kind of put everything to a screeching halt. So that's why you see in May, so anything that went under contract in April, when May came around and they actually closed, those solds were down actually negative 2.5%. So that's why you see that number and it doesn't match with the others. Because sold is a lagging indicator to be, completely transparent. It's from stuff that typically went under contract like 30 days ago or 45 days ago, whenever that person wanted, went under contract for that home that sold. Pended is probably one that's more relevant to what we're talking about, May 24 to May 25. So in May 2024, we had 972 pending, and then in May 2025, we had 1,054 pending. So we did have an increase in activity in terms of pendings and homes for sale. That's actually good. We've been looking for balance. We've been looking for inventory. We've been looking for all of these things. Just because it doesn't come in the package that we want, it doesn't mean that it isn't what it is. I believe that this is more of actually a balanced market. It's a good market. We've been wanting this inventory. We've been wanting more opportunities for buyers and people being able to get under contract and take their time and do their due diligence on their home. That's what we've been wanting this whole time. We've been asking for that, actually. Now, there are other challenges that are going on that are out of our control as well, and buyers and sellers' control as well. But I'm just going off of the numbers. Every situation is different. So Pierce County listings year over year. You can see here, I'm just another one. This is actually with residential and condos. Now, two different markets. I want to acknowledge that. But 2024, you had 1,602 new listings in May, and then 1,768. That's for the condo market and the residential market. So we have more listings there. So obviously, there's more listings. U.S. housing demand. So this is Redfin, taking a look at Redfin's site. And what I was looking at this was the dips and the tops. So I'm looking at the dips. So the dips typically are on the year, right on the year. So that's January, December, January when it's really slow in our off season, quote unquote. And then the tops, you can look at the tops, which are typically somewhere around the middle of the year. Well, guess what month we're in? We're in month 6. I'm sorry, we're in June. And we're about halfway through June, past halfway through June. So when you look at that, are we in the year top right now in terms of this market? And I would, if it were me, I would guess yes, in terms of how many homes are going to be available, around, July, August, you're going to have the most homes available. So if you're a buyer, this might be an opportunity for you to get in before, if everything is lining up and all things are good for you. This is a time when you're going to be able to take time. You're going to be able to maybe ask for some concessions from your seller. You're going to be able to do some of those things. Whereas in the event that there's any type of rate adjustment moving forward, that in terms of decrease, I think in our region specifically, especially Pierce County, you're going to see we're really sensitive to that because we are at that kind of affordability price point, and we're right in between. We're right underneath Seattle, so it's a very competitive place to live, in and around the Pierce County. So something to think about there for housing demand. Months of inventory. So taking a look at inventory for the month of May, you had 1.9%. Now that is again, that's from the month of May. If you're looking at right now, maybe, oh, do I have that up? I don't think I have it up. Maybe I'll come up next time. I'll show you. Let's see. Maybe I do. No, I don't have it there. No, sorry. Well, we'll have to look at it next time. But I'm guessing, if I had to guess, I looked at it, a few days ago. We're in the 2.1, 2.2 range right now, 2.3, somewhere in there, 2.2. So that kind of tracks with the last year. So 2.3, 2.2 was 2024 in the month of June. I would say we're probably in the 2.3, 2.1, 2.4 range, if I had to guess based on the last time I looked at it. That's as of today. So that did increase from May to June in terms of months of inventory. How long will it take to sell? This is a good one. So this is the one that was 450,000 and up. So Pierce County, this is Pierce County homes sold in the last 30 days, $450,000 and up. Okay, so that's what this graph or this table represents right now. And on this table, you can see that of those homes that sold in the last 30 days, 72.46% of them sold within 0 to 30 days in Pierce County. And then when you go down, you look at 31 to 60 days, which ones sold in 31 to 60 days, that was 13.24% of those homes. That's 99 of them. So altogether, you're looking at, I don't know, what's this is just rough. 46, 24, that's one. 1372, that's 85. So maybe 86% of your homes sold within 60 days. So even though it might be taking longer to sell your home, it doesn't mean that it's not out of the ordinary to wait for 30 days or 45 days, or, let the market do its thing and the buyers will find you, as long as you put your best foot forward. And and every house isn't the same. So there's going to be some that have multiple offers. There are going to be some, like I said, I think that this is a balanced market. So not everything's going to go flying off the shelf. There's going to be some things that take longer. There's going to be some things that don't sell, and there's going to be some things that do sell in 30 days. But, I just think that the day we have our mindset on last market, you want to price and you want to position yourself for the market now, not the market that was 2 weeks ago or even a month ago or 3 months ago or last year or whatever, or the last time you bought. Like, this is a market in itself. So talk to your real estate professional. They know, they're on the ground. They're in the houses. They're doing this every day. So, and they're hearing about it in their office every day. So please, please, please just contact them and just get some info from them, because there's some on the ground info that you can't get from going to Redfin, going to Zillow. There's some stuff that's really good, but like in terms of the nuances of that particular market, you're only going to get that from a real estate agent that's in and out of these houses, and in and out of these negotiations and hearing about them from other people. And as you can see, it rounds out 61, 90, 91 through 120 days and 120 plus days. You got about, the last 15% or so, or 10% are landing over there. So pretty interesting. Are buyers still out there in Pierce County? Yes. I would say overall, there's a lot of money sitting on the sidelines. There's a lot of people who are waiting for rates to potentially drop. There's a lot, and I would say to those folks who are waiting, do wait. Obviously, do it whenever it's your time. Pause. Like, do it whenever you want to, you're ready to go. Do it whenever it's good for you and your situation. That's number one. And I would add to that just understanding that the time that you're in is a good one for buyers, because it almost feels like a buyer's market, because you're able to take your time. You're able to ask concessions. Oh, let me go back to this too. When I was looking at this one, where it says median sales price to list price, don't pay attention to this 100% down here. That does not mean that you're going to get, if you're a seller listening, that does not mean you're going to get 100%. At the price that you list at potentially. There might be some cases where you do. If you price at the really lower range and you're letting the market do its thing, and you priced it really well to the point it's attracting people. It's just like, wow, that's a good deal. When you go to Target or you go somewhere and you see something on sale and you be like, oh, I know it's worth more than that, and you go and buy it and and it sells out. That's because you saw it at a good price. We're in a market where you have competition. So all of these homes that sold, chances are there were some concessions made by the seller to the buyer, whether it was for negotiations, whether it was for a rate buy down, whether it was for something. There is a strong chance that this home didn't sell at 100% of the list price. There was probably a concession somewhere in there, and that's just the market that we're in. I'll have the number for you next time in terms of how many concessions that we've had, at least in our office, or I'll try to find the data point, but concessions are being had. And yes, buyers are out there, sellers. So they are out there. There's money on the sidelines right now. I think across the board, all markets, like people are waiting for the chaos to end. You know what I'm saying? Like there's just hella going on right now. So anyway, I'm gonna move forward on that. So what I'm keeping an eye on right now is price per square foot listed versus sold. So on this, you can see here, so average price sold for square feet is $311 per square foot. I don't typically look at this for the reason of purposes of looking at the market, but I'm trying to look at like what are things selling for and what are we listing them at? Just a general like number. And so I'm looking at average price per square foot, and the solds. This is for Pierce County. I'm on Real Scout here. You can see on Real Scout, $311 per square foot for the solds, and this is what has been sold year to date or recently sold listings. So, and then when you look at recently listed, though, average listing is at $318. Now, I will say when I looked at this before, like this was actually at 322. So we're starting to close that gap in terms of what things are selling for and then what, we are listing them at, because there was a wide gap for a little bit there because we were listing and pricing as if it was the last market. It's not the last market. Now we're in this new market. And so, that's a really, really big deal right now for the sellers that have yet to be on the market. And then for those that are on the market, obviously taking a look back at this, 30 days is okay. 72 points, it's okay if your home doesn't sell in the first week or even the second week. It's a marketplace. It has to play out. Now, there's moves you can make, and that's when you need to talk to your realtor. So I talked about what I'm keeping an eye on, price per square foot listed versus sold. And I took some data I broke it down by different areas. I thought that was interesting. It varies by locality. So like, that's why that price per square foot thing isn't necessarily like the best number one thing to look at, but it is good to see where things are being priced at, how much they're being valued at, just on average. But every home is different and every area is different. So for example, here, I took this on the 12th of June. So I was just looking at, price per square foot for homes in North Tacoma that sold in the last 15 days versus how much they list for in the last 15, the ones that were listed in the last 15 days. The ones that sold were, $381 per square foot in the last 15 days. But remember, those probably went under contract in May. So that's a whole different time. Whereas in North Tacoma, the ones that were listed in the last 15 days were at 402. In Central Tacoma, the ones that sold were at 325, and the ones that were listed at 282. So really big drop in terms of price per square foot from the ones that were sold in May and actually June, which probably went under contract in May, versus the ones that were just being listed at 282 per square foot. I thought that was interesting. South Tacoma, $331 that sold in the last 15 days from the 12th, versus 335 that were listed in the last 15 days. So it looks like South Tacoma is kind of keeping its range pretty close there, and same with East Tacoma. So, when you see those big swings like that, though, that just is interesting. So North Tacoma actually swung up because maybe those are more desirable homes. I don't know. I don't know what it depends on what was listed. I mean, there's great homes in all these areas, but like, just it depends on the location. So make sure you look into that. The rates tomorrow, the FOMC meets, I believe, and people are going to be looking at what Jerome Powell says. I'm not waiting around for the rates. I think if you're waiting around for the rates right now at this point in time, you and everybody else are. So, strategically, what's going to be your plan if you're a buyer? Going into this, is your plan to be to wait, and just know you might have some competition if you do wait, and that's okay. Competition is good. But tomorrow we're not planning on. As you can see here on the chart, we're not expecting a rate cut tomorrow. And I was reading some articles even that said this year, and I was like, I don't know about that. But people are concerned about inflation, and rightfully so. But we're in a weird time right now. It's just definitely a weird market and things of that nature. So despite despite all of this, we're still in a competitive market. It's a good market. It's a fair market. It's a market where buyers can go and look at something and take their time. Depending on the house, there are some houses that do have multiple offers, but those are few. Those aren't as many as we think. So actually, how many are those? Let's go look that up. I can look that up right now. Let's see here. We are going to look up. Ah, shoot, it logged me out. And now it's not. I'm getting the spinning ball here. Pause, no diddy. Let me see. Um, yeah, stats and news. We're going to see how many pending reports. Pierce. All right, I think this should do it. City, all the date range. That's fine. We're just gonna go with like what's there. So pendings of multiple offers. As of today, 24%. So 24% of homes that went under contract, that are under contract today, have multiple offers. So there you go. 8% have an escalation addendum, pendings with an inspection addendum, 59%, and financing addendum at 75%. So interesting things to look at. So again, talk to your realtor. But despite all of this, I was going to say, despite all of this, it's competitive. It's a fair market. The competition just looks a little different. We're going to have to shift your mindset, have to shift your expectations in this market. This is for sellers. This is for buyers. This is for everybody, especially sellers. Shifting your expectation is big. And we are in, according to Redfin, the top 10 most competitive cities: Seattle, Tacoma, Anchorage, Alaska, Richmond, Virginia at number 4, Sacramento at number 5, San Francisco at number 6, Arvada, Colorado, 8, Fort Wayne, Indiana at number 8, Lakewood, Colorado, and Littleton, Colorado at number 10 and 9 and 10. Seattle and Tacoma at number 1 and 2. So even though it feels like things have slowed, I think this market is a good market where we're at right now in Tacoma. So where are the opportunities at? Seller concessions, like those are for if you're a buyer, you might be able to, negotiate. You have some negotiation room right now for down payment assistance, folks. Like this is a chance to be competitive and potentially get some things. If it works out and you qualify, you're good. This could be a time for you because things aren't moving as quickly as they typically were. And there's some homes that are there for 30 days or whatever, and that seller might be more motivated. And then sellers, the market's talking, and manage your expectations. The last market versus this market, they're two different things. So again, we're in a really competitive market. We're in a good market. Hopefully that was helpful for you. And with that, I'm out. Those are some things that you need to know. Actually, hit me up, davidjones@windermere.com, or you can even take a look below at the comments. Go to www.windermereabode.com for more information, more stuff like that. Hit up some other podcasts. We have some other podcasts on streaming as well. So no shortage of information from us. So make sure you take a look at that. If you have any questions, hit me up. All right. Peace. Thanks for tuning in.